what you like. Time don't stay, it just says goodbye. Goodbye.
Hi everyone, welcome to the studio. It's Martin from Mayor Street Records. If you're new, welcome to my studio. What a year it's been. Bizarre, right? I mean, if we didn't have our own recording studios, which I presume you might have as well, what would we do with ourselves? I mean, I've been in here mostly during the Christmas period, putting together my first patch bay. Yep, it's my first patch bay I've ever made in a recording studio of my own. Obviously, I've used them at theatres, in other production studios, when I studied, everything, but I've never really felt the need to make one. And I don't know why. I guess I just didn't make one. But if you're like me and you're walking into that world of putting together a patch bay, just from these first couple of days, and I really mean that, it's the first couple of days of making this patch bay, well, putting it together, it's definitely something I would recommend if you have some outboard gear which you'd like to see working within your door. Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you one extra benefit obviously for having a patch bay. There's many which I will get into, and I will make a video eventually of how I put together the patch bay. I didn't quite document it as I went along because, believe me, it's pretty stressful and you have to kind of go back to school and understand exactly where everything goes and what cables do and why. So yeah, if you're used to the creative side, suddenly you have to get technical. But I will attempt some kind of video for you eventually about how I made the patch bay and what I used to do it. But yeah, I'll show you a good example of why it's so beneficial if you've got outboard gear. Okay. Oh, just saying, I've got a new little toy from the Christmas period, and it's the legendary instrument microphone, and that is the SM57. I'll be honest, I've never bought one of these. I've got the SM57A, which has been great on a snare drum. And again, yeah, I've used them, and I'm sure you have. But this microphone has seemed to get legendary status. So we're going to find out about this. No, I'm only kidding. This is a well-known microphone, which I do recommend. I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. It's a Shure SM57. Videos coming up about what this thing sounds like for sure. Sorry, dad joke. And yeah, and so let's get stuck into the patch bay. Okay, so this is the patch bay that I'm going to be using. It's a Teguila audio cream or creme. But all I do know is that these things are amazing. But in this case, I'm going to patch my compressor into my Pro Tools DAW, so then I can have the beauty of analog compression over a vocal. Now, you might say, well, why not just use a soft compressor, you know, just a plug-in? But you know what? We didn't get into making music, and we don't have this amazing gear to quite simply dive into just using another digital plugin on top of another digital plugin. We want our studios to be a bit more sexy, right? So that is why we enjoy our outboard gear, especially if you're maybe over the age of, let's say, 35. So I am kidding, but look, the enjoyable part of making music for me has always been toys. Before that, it was all creativity, and I wanted to be more on stage, musician, that kind of thing, which I still am. I still am a musician, but in the studio you want to feel like you've got some kits and you want to add a bit of color. And by color, audio techs basically mean something a bit more interesting to a normal digital sound. So that's where analog stuff comes in. And so yeah, I'm going to show you how I patch it now. So this is what I've got so far. I have the patch bay below, but I also have my preamp inputs at the top. So that means I don't have to be diving behind my rack here, or behind this rack, for example, to basically get into them, because that's, let's face it, most of the equipment, the inputs and outputs are in the back. So basically what you're seeing in a patch bay is your inputs and outputs. Now you have to be quite clever, and by that I mean have a schematic which you will label. You could eventually have something laminated close by, or you can be really good and put your labels with these little strips they give you, and so you know what's what. But ultimately what you're looking at here, and what I can read from here, is basically the inputs of a compressor, an output of a compressor, the inputs of the audio interface, the outputs of the audio interface, desk inputs, because I use my desk really for monitoring, so I can send stuff about for headphone mixes if I wanted to, or go to different speakers if I wanted to. So it's all here. Okay, even my old CD player, if you remember what they are, that goes into here but also out of here if I wanted to record onto a CD. Hey, you never know, a client might require that, and you just say, you know what, easily done. I'll take a mix out of my Pro Tools session, patch it into the patch bay, it's going to go into the CD recorder, and everyone's happy. They just go home happy, and that's the point of having a patch bay. No one's on their hands and knees anymore. So basically the patch bay is the ins and outs of all the kit in your studio. So we're going to do a quick setup here. I'm going to use the piano. So I want to add compression, which I wouldn't normally do, for my keys. Okay, it's a stereo channel, and I want to add a stereo compressor, which is like the cream, over my keys, which is here. So I set up an insert by clicking on the insert, going at the bottom here, which says I/O, and then down, and I'm going to insert it on channels 5 to 6. Okay, and that's 5 to 6 that I have on my interface. There it is, 5 and 6. So that's here. And now, really, it's time to do the actual patching on the patch bay. So obviously the patch bay is going to be a lot more presentable. We're going to make sure it's inside a nice rack unit. Might possibly add one more. But for now, it's going to be as it is, because I like to get an idea of how it's going to sound, make sure there's no problems, no loops, no hums, no buzzes, before I start to make it all look pretty. So apologies for the mess. However, this makes perfectly good mess sense to me, and your patch bay will be exactly the same. You'll just know where stuff is. But initially, you will have the plan, okay, and that's my plan, and it makes sense to me. So make sure, whatever you do, make sure your patch bay is set out exactly how you feel comfortable. Whether you want to wing it or really go military and make sure it's fully planned, that's your choice. But anyway, let's get back to patching. At the moment, on the keyboard channel on my DAW, I've set an insert on channels 5 and 6. So what that means is I'm sending from the interface channels 5 and 6, and then from there I'd like to patch into a compressor. So here's what I'll do. Channels 5 and 6 correspond to channels 21 and 22 on my patch bay. That's just below here. So I take the patch leads, which in my case are little 1/4" jacks, balanced, and they will go into the compressor, okay? And the cream compressor is on channels 9 and 10. And 9 and 10 correspond to their inputs, so left and right, if you wish. And then out of the cream compressor, which is below, so the output of the compressor just running straight through, that will now go into the inputs of the interface, so just returning basically. And on here it makes more sense, inputs are 5 and 6. Okay. So we've come out on these, into the compressor, then out of the compressor. We're going to do some fun stuff in between, obviously. And we're going to go back into Pro Tools via the interface. So here is a keyboard performance without any compression at all. And here is the keyboard performance with the compression. So then, that is pretty much the quickest go through of this patch bay so far that I can show you. Don't think for a second that I plan these videos. I really don't. I come into my studio, I have some downtime, and I think, you know what, I'll try and share something with you. So please be kind with your comments. I hope it can give you a bit of an insight for how a patch bay can work. Personally, I wouldn't always use a keyboard that I would compress using expensive outboard gear. It's really more the vocals, drums, acoustic guitars I normally would use that for, if I'm honest, because keyboards normally have their own kind of tone preset anyway, and that's kind of why you choose it. But of course, everything's creative, so you never know, you might do. But what I did with the compressor and to use it was really just to kind of bring up the tone, keep things more even. It's not like I'm bringing up an acoustic piano, which would be perfect really, which I really want to show off the tone using a nice warm valve compressor, for example. So keep that in mind. But I just wanted to show you really how I can go from here into, out of here, into this, back into this, and then back into there again. Why do we do this? No, I'm joking. It is just good fun, right? And also it brings a different result. It loses that digital, if you really want to hear that anyway. And if you're an audio person, you do, and you really do want to make sure your music, your productions, whether it's a film score or a full-on band, big band, rock band, whatever, has something unique to it, and only the engineer, only the producer would maybe know, but the people listening would never really understand it possibly, or even understand the technicalities. But what they did know is that, hang on, that sounds great, that record, why? And normally it's a mix between analog meeting digital, and you know, everything else kind of works. So stay well. I hope this has helped you, and please like, subscribe. Let me know if I'm producing videos that you like to watch, and if there's anything you want to know, let me know. Maybe I can help you out or point you in the right direction if I don't know the answer. But yeah, until the next one, see you later.